How you doing, Mike?
Doing good. And yourself?
Hey, I'm doing fine. It's just a little cool, that's all. In the mornings,
Yeah,
it's
it dropped down to 65 down here. Yeah. So yeah, I can feel
well,
that.
well, yeah,
You guys have frost already then?
we have,
Oh,
you go
oh,
outside to
okay.
the car in the morning, you have that frost on your windshield.
Uh-huh.
Um,
Uh-huh.
and yeah, it's pretty, the last couple days it's been, you know, challenging your feelings. It's kind of cool, it's kind of cold, and
Yeah.
I catch the train in the morning, so I get up pretty early. So when I catch the train, I got to use a heavier jacket.
Oh,
uh,
wow. Yeah. Yeah.
so it's something that it's uh it's getting there. It's getting
Okay.
there. Now, are
Well,
your
I probably shouldn't tell you that I'll defrost my windows maybe twice during the whole winter. Scrape them off, and I may wear a jacket for a couple days to work, but
wow.
yeah, I feel your pain.
Yeah, yeah, I bet you do. Hey, you guys moving into your new building, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
You mean the Coral Cliffs Professional Center? Yeah, we've been over here for 2 years.
Oh yeah, see, it's been a while since I've been there. So,
Yeah, so the district office was growing. So then we had a school that was being some realignments. The school was being shut down.
uh-huh.
So they took half the school and turned it into some offices, and the
Hmm.
other half is kind of a lab school and only has like one grade, K through 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 teachers in it, and we work
Yeah.
with Dixie State, so they come over and train teachers on the other half. And we've got several rooms here, and we've got a big room that'll hold 400 people for trainings and
Yeah.
stuff. So yeah, we've been here I think 2 years in December now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been at least 2 years since I've been there, so I gotta take I gotta take another trip down there just to see
Just to warm up.
just the way. There you go, just to warm up and see what the building looks like, and
Yeah.
so it's I guess it's going to be a work in progress.
Yeah.
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 So how's the language program coming along? Is that
Well, uh, we so the Navajo is fine because we've got
Yeah,
that happening. But
yeah,
I think Karma Wednesday finally did a Paiute language class
right.
out at Shivwitz, and then I think she was going to hold one here in this building last night for people kind of located in town.
Uh-huh.
And I haven't got the report yet. Charlene John isn't here yet to tell me if there was anybody that came.
Yeah,
Part of our dilemma is the Paiute tribe's still kind of shut down because of COVID and stuff. So
yeah,
we're just kind of running things on our own. We got permission out there that she holds it out there at the reservation with the kids there, and so
yeah.
yes, I think I hope. What's this, year four, three, 4?
Uh-huh.
I hope we uh, hope we're doing some good.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Uh,
Well, that's we have the I guess if Stephanie, today I'm going to ask her to do a little follow up on the Go Shoot language.
mhm.
The Go Shoot language, basically, we're following that same protocol in terms of offering in elementary school first,
Yeah.
and then hopefully kick it up into the secondary, and once you
Mhm.
get into high school, they can receive credit for that. So that's our whole
Well,
basically that's our whole
yeah.
objective.
Well, that's what
So
we would kind of hope too. Right now it's after school, open to
yeah,
children and parents, and if we could build some support for it, our superintendent's behind it too. Like, hey, it's easy to get the credit for high school. I mean, that's an easy
yeah,
process. We just get you on the phone and you get it cleared through the world language department, and
right,
boom, set.
yeah,
But we don't have any real kids in high school yet, so
yeah,
that are taking that. And right now, they're still the third, fourth, fifth graders. That's our little cohort,
yeah.
but
You
but
know,
we're getting there.
I don't know if I sent that information out from the superintendent's office where she signed the proclamation where all the languages are going to be offered, and we don't have to
Oh,
we don't have to jump through any more of those hoops because
oh, well,
that
no,
letter.
yeah, okay.
Did you guys ever get that?
I
Maybe I.
I don't recall getting that, so
Okay, well, let me put that down
put
on my
that on your
notes
notes to,
and I'll send
because
that
that'd
out.
be an easy sell. I can,
Yeah.
and that's kind of waived the fact that we don't have to have a certified teacher. We just need somebody that the tribe recognizes as fluent,
Right.
right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
So we're not in a position to determine if that's correct or not. It's the
right.
tribe that's gonna. Yeah. No,
Certification.
yeah. There
Yeah,
you go. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. No, so if the tribe says that Karma's language instruction is sufficient for a high school kid to get credit, that's good enough. That'd be
Yeah.
great. Send that to me. That would be very
Yeah.
helpful.
Well, I think I'm just going to send it out to everybody. I think that's a worthy letter that everybody should have, and it that appeared. I think that's in um, our website too. I think, but
Oh, okay.
I'll double check on that.
Hey, Dr. Foster. This is Sarai.
Hey, good morning. Good morning, everybody.
I
Yeah.
have to email you something I got today if you could review it for me. You know us in Davis, we like to have the itchy.
Yeah. Is that the reason why my ears were really itching? And it's
Yes. I'm like, I need Dr. Foster on this. Yeah. So
yeah,
I'm going to
she's
email it to you and review it for me.
yeah. Well, you're the you're the
Probably
person that
trying.
has a lot of questions up there, with those, so
Yes. And they were in the news actually, our school district for bullying, racial bullying. So,
yeah.
you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
So I'm going to
it's
email this to you, get your input.
yeah. Well, it just kind of what I feel is that you just kind of keep chipping away at it, and sooner or later everybody would say, "Haha!"
I keep trying
It's
to
gonna
chip.
it's gonna be an aha moment for a lot of those people.
It's like little pieces of every year.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So it's hey, is Eddie Clemedy, are you on? Do you know? Let's get that movie. Oh, I said movie. I almost said movie. Let's get the movie started. Uh, we can get the meeting started. Okay. Okay. Let's start. I'm gonna I'm gonna do ask Mike. Could you offer us an invocation or some piece of cultural reference to set the stage for us? Now, for those people who are new, this is a Title VI program. It's sponsored by the Office of Indian Education in DC under the umbrella of the Elementary and Secondary Act. Um, and it's been highly recommended that anytime that we do have a meeting associated with the Office of Indian Education, they recommend that the protocol of the culture that we serve in, and Title VI is part of that American Indian Alaska Native programs. And for those people who are new, we'll always offer a cultural reverence. This morning, I asked Mike to do a small prayer for us. And that kind of sets the stage because, again, I think this is a cultural exercise that we all like to participate in. And I think once that's established, then we'll go through the program itself. So, Mike, would you offer us just a small little prayer, if you or a thought or whatever?
Okay, okay. Um, this will be a Christian prayer, if that's all right, from my background. So, Father in heaven, we bow our heads at this time. We're grateful for this opportunity to together as Title VI coordinators across the state of Utah. We're grateful for this beautiful day. We're also grateful to be able to meet through this wonderful technology that's been provided for us. We pray this day for those that will present, that they might be able to edify us and uplift us and help us serve the children that we have stewardship over. Once again, we acknowledge thee. We are grateful for the bounties of this land and our opportunities once again to meet. And I say this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Hey, thank you, Mike. I think that was very, very appropriate. Again, I think our services that we provide are, we always keep the K-12 grades in mind, along with that, the parent and the community and the school district that we all serve for and of. Um, just a couple of updates, the Title VI updates from the office of my office. There were two issues that came up. Well, there were not two issues. There weren't so much issues. Um, it's I don't know what you want to call that, awareness areas during the Native American Legislative Liaison Committee, which happened this past week. The first part, well, the first, I guess, the news was that uh, the subject of the mascots came up, and because of where the Legislative Liaison Committee sits in terms of pushing these announcements forward, it has to be sponsored by someone from that group. And one of the areas is the mascots. This is not so much going to be a bill. This is more of a resolution that they like to provide for all the schools and make a recommendation for all the schools to follow. That possibly the name might be changed, or some way of possibly recognizing the American Indian in a certain way instead of using them as like an image. So that piece there, they are gonna push that as a resolution through the Native American Legislative Liaison Committee, and that's going to be probably coming up during the general session in January. And the other one is the regalia, and that's more of a bill that they're going to propose. And an incident that happened down in Cedar City last spring to a student, and that was brought to the attention of the Paiute tribe, and the Paiute tribe are actually they're going to support this bill, and they have one person from the Legislative Liaison Committee is going to put that into a bill, and to make that a bill where it could be the culture could be expressed across all graduating seniors to exhibit, because I think other cultures are basically following that same protocol. Um, and the third is the formula grant rollover. I think I sent this announcement out at our first meeting last week, or last month, and just kind of revisit that rollover proclamation, or that it's the announcement that came out from the Office of Indian Education as to that rollover, and pay attention to the dates, because those dates are very, very important for your program. And if your supervisor as well as you can sit down and review that together, I think that would really help in terms of that rollover announcement. So basically, those are the three areas I thought I would bring to your attention. Um, I also like to move on to the introduction. We have Jessica. Are you on? Are you here somewhere? Okay.
I am.
Jessica is going to be serving as the parent representative. What Cheryl was doing last year. So if you could introduce yourself, and then we'll go from there. Jessica, could you introduce yourself?
Thank you for that, Dr. Foster. My name is Jessica Callan, and I am replacing Cheryl and the very large shoes that she's left behind at USB. So I'm the new Family and Community Engagement Specialist. I just wanted to come in today and introduce myself since I'm new in this role and let you know that I'm here to support you in increasing family and community engagement. But I also just want to know how I can help you, what challenges you might be facing, or even people who want to share who have been doing it really well. So I'm just trying to let you know that I'm here, and I'm really excited to connect with all of you.
Okay. Well, thank you, Jessica. And I'm pretty sure that you're going to be getting some requests to help with the programs and stuff. So we'll move on to our agenda. We're on item 4, our professional development piece there. And as soon as we get through the professional development piece, we also have a presenter, which is Lisa Coney from UEN. Then we'll have some of the site updates. And I'm just kind of curious on item 7 is the NIEA updates, where some of the people that attended that national conference, just to see your take on that. Well, let's ask Dustin. Is Dustin here?
I am. Can you hear me?
Oh, yes.
Oh, all right. Let me see. Let me see. Thanks for going over that legislative update uh, right there. I was gonna kind of cover that today, but I think you did really well, and so I'm not going to. Now I just need to figure out how to share my screen. Okay, I think I see it.
Okay.
Let's see. Let me see. Da, 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 da. Come on now.
Yeah. Technology is always a challenge. So.
I know. That's what I get for getting the latest update. Let's see.
Isn't it the down at the bottom the box with the arrow that says open tray? Is that where you go?
I found the arrow to request to share the screen, and see if it does anything. Then my computer tried to stop me. That's what was happening. Let me see. Now it's thinking. It's thinking. Come on.
Dr. Foster, while we're waiting for a tech update, could I ask what the update to the federal dates was? Is that a rollover of grant money, or what was that update? I'm so sorry.
Yeah, that was the rollover in the grant money from the formula grant application. I sent that information out during our first meeting, and that was a page and a half from the Office of Indian Education that set the parameters in terms of the dates and the rationale, and and just kind of be careful of the dates, because once the date is expired, you're going to lose, that money's going to go back. You'll never see it again. And that information was sent out during our first meeting. So
cool. Thank you very much, Dr. Foster.
Okay.
Hey, Chuck, I'm gonna log off and log back on and see if that does anything.
Okay.
I'll be fast.
All right. That's good.
Or not. It's just making me think.
So Dr. Foster, Mike, or Cindy here. On that regalia,
Yes.
is that going to hopefully be a law that will then trump district policies? Is that the idea behind that?
You know,
Saying
I think it's on a slippery slope for one, because that
okay, because
question
I'm the
that
neighboring district to the iron, so
yeah, that's a question that was brought up, and how that bill is going to be written. But the focus is that they want to address the regalia issue. But in terms of if that's going to be a bill, but within the bill, there's going to be certain language is going to be written in that we don't want to. I guess they really don't want to destroy everything which has been built before. So I think all
well,
across the state, everybody does different ways of approaching that. So I think
right.
they want to make that all
Well,
consistent.
well, I hope if you have input or anybody from this committee about where they can wear their feather. We always seem to have can it be on the cap or on the ear? Or, I mean, I'm hoping that that'll clarify some of these misunderstandings, I guess. But
Yeah.
Anyway, that's my 2 bits.
Yeah. Well, I think
So, Randy,
that's all gonna be included in that the language that they're gonna come up with.
so this is Randy White. So are they trying to get to say that students are going to be able to wear the regalia, or how does that? Because I don't know the whole background on the iron can or
Well,
on the.
I think that's their intention, but as the approach and the process, that's the language that they're going to write and put into place. Because we're going to have a new generation of um, ethnic groups across the nation, and they're going to be coming through the graduation line, and they have they have their own cultural background, and they like to express that. Um, I think all ethnic groups, they do have something to display in terms of their culture. Some of the examples, you see that is like with the Polynesians and the Hawaiian culture. You get into the Middle East, the Muslims, um, and for the American Indian, it's the stoles, and like some of them, like the caps were beaded, and I think the the eagle feather that's worn on the tassel. It's that language there. That's they're struggling with that in terms of what that looks like. But the outcome is that that regalia should be something written in a bill where everybody, all the cultures, would exercise their background and their culture.
Hey, Chuck.
Yeah.
I emailed you my PowerPoint. Maybe you can share it.
Okay. Can you? Is Renee on?
Yes, sir.
Want
Yeah.
me to email it to her?
Yeah. Email it to her, and
Okay.
she'll take care of that.
While I'm doing that,
Yeah.
to that question of where these things should be, um, where like the eagle feathers could be worn and things like that. There's 8 different tribes in Utah alone, and they don't all wear their feathers the same.
Yeah.
And so that I think what they're doing is they're trying to err on the broader side of interpretation about where things could be ran, what exactly regalia is that I think that legally speaking, the problem with making lists and being specific is you start excluding people with very specific language. And so I know that they're trying to find that general language that will be inclusive of all tribal practices. And that's the difficult part. Yeah. I don't know if that makes sense.
Oh yeah. That.
All right. So I sent it to Renee.
Okay.
Let's see what. otherwise, on the on the mascot issue, I was there. I raised my hand. Well, we were all online, right? But there's a raise your hand function at that Native American Legislative Liaison Committee meeting. On the person presenting, was that just someone from the community that was speaking? I don't think that was an elected representative. Is that right? That presented that? But she was really speaking on
Oh, that's
on
Renee, that's the wrong one.
that's not me. That's Chuck's.
Yeah.
But they had talked about, well, this is what we need to start asking natives within the community to find out what the tribe wants. And if just for practice sake, if you want to know what the tribe wants, you should ask the elected tribal leaders, because they're the ones that are officially in a position to speak for the tribe. Otherwise, you're getting instead of getting the tribe's response, you're getting the individual Indian response, and there's a difference there on that. So, even outside of mascots, outside of appropriation, outside of other things, if you want to know what a tribe is thinking, ask the tribe itself, and rather than the individual members, because the individual members are going to have varied opinions on that, especially if you're looking for an official tribal stance on that. Well, I can just start, Chuck, just talking.
Yeah, let's do that, and Renee will get that
Is this
loaded.
showing up?
I don't see anything on my end.
Yeah, it's on my screen. Okay, let me try again.
I was actually, because it's October, almost Halloween. I was going to talk. I kind of combine appropriation with Halloween things, and because I think you really need to understand why they kind of bleed into each other, and why these things are issues for Native communities, and why I get calls from tribal government representatives saying, "Hey, what are we doing to fix this and that?" And so I have a PowerPoint on appropriation, which kind of bleeds into Halloween. And this is the time of year normally when my wife and I get a lot of phone calls and asking if we could do presentations at schools, and if I can. No.
No,
Did you receive a PowerPoint from me?
this is what's opening up.
Let me
It
see.
says what you sent me says ACLU demand letter.
Oh, that's probably my bad then. Hold on. Let me forward something to you. Forward PowerPoint. That was my fault. Thank you, Renee. All right, I just sent it.
Okay.
And I don't mind doing these. I appreciate when schools reach out to the parents, the Native parents, to ask for input, because I think that's you're working together to figure out the best way to teach a certain subject. And around Thanksgiving, around Halloween, I'm super available to give these to give a short presentation to my kids' schools. Already, my two little boys, I got two 9-year-old boys, and they have long hair, and I didn't make them. I wear my hair long, but my two boys, they didn't for a long time, and my little boy asked me why I wear my hair long. He goes, how come you have braid, Dad? How come you do this? And I'm Navajo, so I told him cultural reasons why we may be doing that. And and some of the things that for Navajos at least, your hair is the knowledge that you acquire over time. And if you know me, I kind of sometimes I'll I'll wear my hair. You'll see me with my hair short or my hair long. And I didn't write that. Another crazy one. That's just the video I got off YouTube. um, but usually if I start a new job, I'll cut my hair and I'll grow it while I'm in that job. And because I feel like this is new knowledge and this is new things for me to learn and to acquire and move forward. And I have white hair, and my son was like, when will my hair get white? And I was like, hopefully not for a long time. I went white pretty early, and but you know my mom would always say, well, your white hair is your wisdom, and there's a difference between your knowledge and your wisdom, right? Things you know and how you apply what you know in any given circumstance. And so I explained these things to my son. And my wife's Sue Assiniboine, and so her tribe has different teachings on hair and what it means and the length of it and how you should wear it. Um, and for her, she's good with keeping our boys' hair pulled back in a braid because in her tribe it represents strength. When it runs down your back, it symbolizes a strong back and a willingness to work. And we kind of combine those things as parents. And so one of my sons was like, well, I'm going to grow my hair then. And so we did. We said, okay, we just let it go. And he says his hair are growing. And it's pretty long. It's pretty thick. He has like broom hair, it's like all chubby braid. And then my other boy last year decided to grow his hair. And I just to get out in front of things, I wrote an email to my teacher and the principal saying, "Hey, my boys have long hair," and I explained the significance of it to them, and and I just said, "Hey, if you could just keep an eye out for if they're getting teased about their hair from other kids, and if you would like, I could come in and talk about that with your classes." And they took me up on it, and so we're scheduled to do that. And they assured me that they hadn't heard anything that was going on about it. And but just having that knowledge and just having that opportunity to speak and share things with one another was a good thing, I think. And then right after that, right, there was a 10-year-old kid in Oklahoma who went to the restroom, a native kid, and two non-Indian boys tackled him and cut his hair. And that was, and I was like, oh crap, good thing we got ahead of this to talk about this. So I shared that article with my boys, principal and teacher, just so they know I wasn't just being a paranoid parent, that this is something that can happen, and to make sure it doesn't happen. I emphasized it with this article, and hopefully they're okay. Renee, can you run your cursor over that and see if you can push play on this? You might just have to hit your space bar.
Well, there we go.
Maybe not your space bar then.
Okay, you want to go back?
Yeah, go back, and then one more, and now go move your cursor over the screen, and you'll probably see you don't need to click anything, but if you just move your cursor over the screen where it says Sokotoa, go back to one more. If you move your cursor over the screen, probably on the bottom right hand corner, you'll see a play symbol.
Great.
All right. Well, let's not worry about it. If you look up this video on YouTube just this week, we have a math teacher in Riverside, California, dressed like this. and she's teaching math. And I don't know if anybody remembers SOHCAHTOA in math, right? I think it's how to find sine, cosine, and tangents. It's a little thing they teach you in on geometry your sophomore year usually. And so she dresses up like this and she starts running around the classroom saying SOHCAHTOA, SOHCAHTOA, and she jumps on the desk behind her and she's SOHCAHTOA, 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 running back and forth in her classroom. And then you need to hit enable editing on top and go down. There's a button right there. It says enable editing right above CAH on SOHCAHTOA. And she runs around and stubs her toe and like, oh, my toa, and then sits on her desk and then she ends up praying right to the, and at least that looks like what she's doing, and then she'll say, please help me understand SOHCAHTOA, and she says, help this dumb Indian understand. She says that. Okay. So it's kind of upsetting that a teacher in a public school would be doing these things. But this isn't unique. This isn't the one person in the United States that's doing this. Let's go ahead and go to the next slide, Renee.
I don't have an enable editing.
Renee, look in the yellow band where it says protected view. And then if you go read through that, there's a white rectangle that says
yellow band either. I don't have any of the stuff you guys are talking about. There's no yellow band.
Official performance.
It's all right, Renee. It's all right. If you can't.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. Now let's go to the next slide.
Okay.
Accomplishments of established objectives.
Now come on. Change. There you go.
Applicable, and to provide an explanation of unexpected program funds. Under the what year will be reported, and the grant performance period will be for school year July 19th through June 23rd. Okay.
Can you get to the build?
Sure.
Renee, could you go to the next slide, please?
Is it not showing up?
We're still on the first slide.
Oh, I'm on slide 3. Okay, there.
No, that's all right.
I don't know why it's not working.
Okay. That's all right. It wasn't working on my end either. So I'll just start talking. So cultural appropriation. What you're going to see is a lot of people really, the reason why it's such a big problem, I believe, it's not a lot of people know what it is. And if a decent definition or definitions of what cultural appropriation is the adoption or use of elements of one culture by members of another culture. And that in of itself doesn't seem like a big deal, right? Because all the time you'll see people borrowing elements of other cultures, just even in their daily dress, right? And there's some things that are going to cross over, and there's designs that cross over, but let's go a little further on what that definition could be for cultural appropriation. It says the adoption of one of these cultural elements is done in a colonial manner, right? So a colonial manner is to take that over, okay? Not just I'm using it today, or I like the way this looks, so I'm wearing it, but you're changing things about it. So elements are copied from a minority culture by members of the dominant culture, and these elements are used outside of their original context, sometimes even against the express stated wishes of the representatives of the originating culture. Okay, so I know that's a lot. That's a lot to to um, to absorb right now, but I'll read it one more time. The adoption of these cultural elements is done in a colonial manner. Elements are copied from a minority culture by members of the dominant culture, and these elements are used outside of their original cultural context, and sometimes even against the express stated wishes of the representatives of their original culture. Why do you think this is even an issue? What do you guys think?
Hey, Dustin, this is Chuck. I
Yes.
think this oftentimes that this perpetuates itself in terms of it's unknowing what that is, and if it's unknown and this continues for years, the the culture which is that we're talking about becomes marginalized. Once it becomes marginalized, they're not functioning as a member of society, I think. And sometimes when they're not a member of society, they just kind of exclude them, and they have no place at the table anymore. Um, but that's my thought.
Yes. Eileen, go right ahead.
I think many of our stories or are ceremonial. Many of our stories, our ceremonial stories, are stories connected to the earth, our stories connected to animals, our stories connected to why we believe our value system, why we believe the way that we do gets changed in the interpretation, and especially if all of the knowledge is not known, the reasons why, and every time it's told, it gets changed to the point that finally it loses its meaning, and nobody knows the actual interpretation, the real interpretation of some of these stories. I think that we live in a very crucial time. Many of I'm Navajo, many of our elders, the ones that never went to school, never were colonized, they're in their 90s. I work with Adopt a Native Elder, so I know this is fact. They're in their 90s into their hundreds. And those stories we need to really listen to. That's why in the old way, in the traditional way, medicine men were taught to be medicine men, and they had to learn each of the songs, the stories, the words, word for word. And it was carried down, orally through their families, through their clans, through their regions and everything. And so we need to always be careful as Native Americans ourselves, that we are very cognizant of the origin stories connected to there. Yes, they may vary because of regions, but be aware of the stories in the areas that you live in. That's my 2 cents.
Thank you. So yeah, you risk the chance of losing the meanings of stories, not just the meanings of stories changing, but the chance of that it might actually be lost altogether. Oh, uh, Renee, could you go to slide 7, if you could?
So is this showing up then?
Cultural appropriation defined is showing up. Slide 4.
Okay, let me find it because it's not showing on mine now.
Okay.
Oh,
That's all right. So I actually have a few pictures, and I don't put a lot on this presentation. I don't have a lot of words. I usually have a lot of pictures, and I one of the pictures I wanted to show you was the picture of the old Washington Redskin logo, or the Cleveland Indian logo, and I actually had another picture of the mass burial that was occurring at Wounded Knee. And you know, when it says it trivializes a violent past historical oppression, I'm not a big fan of Native American mascots. I'll just be straight up honest with that. But one of the arguments for having Native mascots is that it honors Native people, right? It shows that we want to be like Native people. Our players in this game are they admire the warriors of Native people from the past, and it's like we're honoring them. Uh, but it tends to cut out the historical fact that this wasn't always the the attitude of America. You know, America had policies to exterminate Indian people. Uh, our own state did. Right prior before it became a state. There was extermination orders in Utah for the Native people here. There were, there are, when extermination didn't work, it went to boarding schools, and boarding schools where you still tried to kill the Indianness, right, in people, where you had to where you were sending kids to boarding school, not allowing them to meet with their elders, to meet with their parents, right? They moved them so far away that they couldn't even take part in that conversation, that interaction with their own people as children. You said they couldn't speak their language. And then the schools also discourage them learning their stories and their ceremonies at all. And now all of a sudden we're honoring this people. Renee, thank you for putting that up. I see a hand, and I think it said MJ. Is that somebody?
I think it's me. It's Meredith.
Meredith. Okay. Oh, ML. There you are.
Oh, yes. Hi, everybody. So, actually, this is something that's really interesting because I don't know how many of you know that I've been working 2 jobs. So, one job I've been doing is working with American Indian Services, which is the scholarship organization. And then I'm still obviously involved with the Provo City School District as the Title VI coordinator. There's so much talk about, you know, um, cultural appropriation. And I think here in the state of Utah, I think a lot of it can be attributed to, people not having the education. But not only that, I think it's is really important for people to really just see cultural appropriation for what it is. And usually, if anything had happened and we saw something racist or somebody being mistreated, we would speak out. Um, I really think that cultural appropriation is harmful because it really is an extension of the centuries of racism, genocide, and oppression that that we've experienced as a group of people. And so when I explain it like that to people, then you'll usually get hit back with, well, what if we're just appreciating the culture? And it's like, well, there's a difference between appreciating and appropriating, and appropriation is not respectful. And so I think the biggest part of appropriation, of how I explain it to people, is, you know, when we are represented in caricatures and mascots and people are not educated about our history, it really dehumanizes our people. It's a dehumanizing tool, and it's a way to remove us in this view of being human. And once that is happening, and it does happen, it makes the larger society and the margin, it hurts the marginalized society, but it also really, if we can get more people educated, I really feel like this is a way that we can, you know, put the respect back in, helping people understand and seeing Native people as human. Because I think for so many years this has been accepted, and it's confusing because there are older generations of Native people that don't see an issue with it and maybe have been raised to not say anything, and to just accept it. But that doesn't mean that it's okay. I hope that makes sense.
Thank you, Meredith.
So I'm just about, yeah, I'm just about like calling it out when it's happening. And so when I let people know, I'm just like, if you see it, call it out for what it is. Like, don't let it go. I think it's important for us to speak up.
Well, and it's important to have the conversation, right? And the reason why we share PowerPoints like this is to give you a better way to have that conversation. I teach American heritage at UVU sometimes, but and it's basically the formation of the United States government, but it talks about how laws are made and the principles and values of our country. And so I'll throw up controversial topics to make my students talk about it, because for so many of us, speaking about, we're told not to speak about religion or politics, and sometimes after that, when you that conversation does happen, because you haven't done it enough and because you haven't practiced enough, we get really bottled up and either really angry. Sometimes you start crying. Sometimes you're angry and crying. And so and those are perfectly fine things to feel about any one topic, but there's appropriate ways to have this conversation about it. And I think the more we talk about it, the easier the conversation is going to get, and the better understanding that's going to be communicated back and forth. Renee, can we go to slide 8? So it says that lets people show love for a culture, but remain prejudiced against its people, right? I love your culture. I'm gonna wear your headdress. I'm gonna wear the loincloth and do all I'm gonna sing your songs and do all these things. But I'm probably not going to support you in your everyday battles, right? The picture on the right hand side there is from a few years ago. It's the protest at the Dakota Access Pipeline, where Native people tried to stop the building or the implementation of a pipeline going just north of their reservation, because they thought it would be harmful because of leakage into their water supply. And usually the same people that are wearing or appropriating Native things are the ones speaking out, saying, stop, you're inhibiting the progress of America. You should let us drill, let us lay the pipeline. You're causing trouble. You're troublemakers protesting up there, right? And all of a sudden that's how Indians are. That's what Indians do. And so appropriation, again, it perpetuates this thought pattern, where I'm categorizing my love for people. I like the clothes they wear. I like it when they burn sage, right? But I don't like it when they speak up for themselves. I don't like it when they exercise, right, a freedom of speech in a land that's supposed to value that, in their constitution. Eileen, do you have your hand up? Just checking. I don't. If you have something to say, I want to call on you. Otherwise, if you don't, I'll move on.
Hey, Dusty. This
Yes.
is Melissa Tabapont from UNS School District.
Mm-hmm.
And I just had something to say about the mascot and just a cultural appropriation. 2 years ago, UNS School District had contacted the UTTM program and were wanting to collaborate to get quote unquote a mascot. They came to us wanting to see what would be appropriate. As most of you, I don't know if you guys know, but we are the UNA Utes at the UNA High School, and so they wanted to um, respect the tribe and find something that was appropriate for. They wanted to build school pride and have something but not be offensive or do the cultural appropriation. So the principal and student council and a few other members from the school district, along with the UTTMs and our education director, as well as our UTTM coordinator, all got together and met with the business committee and asked what was appropriate, what their input was. And we came up with, as a collaborative team, we came up with the bear being our, not our mascot, but the spirit animal for the school. And they asked the tribe's input on the names and things like that. So I think that that relationship that we've built has really enabled some good conversations, and where we're not having that prejudice against the tribe. So it was really neat to see. And so now we do have a spirit animal, and you know the the tribe has and the business committee has blessed the school with that. So it's really awesome to see. So I just wanted to add a positive note into that mascot whole thing.
Debate. Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing that, Melissa. I get approached all the time by people, and they'll say, mascots aren't all that bad. Mascots are good. Look, the University of Utah, they have a mascot, and the Utes are fine with it. So everyone should be fine with it. What's the problem? And my follow-up question is, why is the Ute tribe okay with this? And they usually like, well, what do you mean? And I said, well, because there's conversation there, there's collaboration there, there's consultation there. The school, the University of Utah, and it looks like the Uinta Utes, um, they have all come together to talk and work it out with the tribe, right? You're able to do this because a tribe was involved and let you know how they wanted to be represented there, what was appropriate to be represented there. And I love that example, and I love that you shared that with us to show what can happen if it's going about, if things are being done in the correct way. And so much of this can be helped through just consultation, collaboration, communication with one another to make sure no one is at risk of being hurt. Thank you very much for sharing that. Renee, can we go to slide 9? The next reason why appropriation may be harmful is it lets the privileged people profit from oppressed people's labor. Now, I know you're not, your hand's not up, Eileen, but I'm going to ask you a question here really quick. For everyone else, if you look at the shirts that are being produced on the left side, right? You see this? And they're just printed off, and these are sold by just companies, major companies around the U.S. Some of them are like a Forever 21, H&M, producing shirts and things and other textiles like this. And then I want you to move slowly right where you see a silversmith that's banging on some silver there, stamping some conchos, getting ready to cut those out. And then you see a woman further right weaving this ginormous rug right there. Now, the the time comparison. Let's look at the time comparison and producing these images and that it's printed on these shirts as compared to what's being produced on the right hand side. Now, I grew up in a house of silversmiths, right? We were silversmiths growing up. My mom is still a silversmith, and so I know how long it takes to produce something. I know how long it takes to bang out some silver, to stamp it, to solder it, to find the right embellishments you want to put on it. I'll say I like straight silver jewelry. So I'm not big on turquoise or coral. But my mom works with turquoise and coral, and you have to purchase those things up hand. Sometimes you have to cut those stones yourself. You have to polish those stones before you use them, and it's a huge labor to do this. It takes a long time. I really appreciate the oh gosh, Eileen, I spaced out the name of my daughters were representatives of this organization. I'll just ask Eileen, the organization you mentioned before that works with Native elders. You always put when you go up to their auction up in Sundance, not Sundance, up in Park City. There's a lot of rugs that are up for sale, and they're usually are they 3 by 5 feet? I'm thinking they are, or 2 by 3 feet or something like that. But they always there's a piece of paper that talks about how many hours it takes to produce a rug that's 2 by 3 feet. Eileen, do you remember how long it took to produce a rug?
Can you hear me?
I can right now. Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. When I love that paper, I don't have it right in front of me, but you have to estimate. It takes a flock of sheep. You go out and you herd the sheep every day from the time the lamb is born, taking care of it, feeding it, giving it medicine when it's sick, and so on. And then in the spring, shearing the wool off the lamb or the sheep, taking that wool and cleaning it, carding it, spinning it, dyeing it, and then finally to the point of weaving it. Now, weaving the rug itself can take up to months. It can take up, months to do that. And some have even taken years to do that. Some of the big rugs, they're usually, I would say, about 2.5. I've seen a lot of 2.5 by 3 feet or larger. They usually are larger than that. And they all have significant meanings. You see on the shirts, those designs. What white people don't understand is there's meaning in the designs. The designs talk about the mountains, it talks about the lightning, natural, sacred elements that are embodied within that image. And there's the story behind it, to the point that I hear the weavers say, when you are sick, put your hands on my rug. Rub your hands over it, and you will feel me. You will feel that when I sat down to this, all I had was positive thoughts, and even creating something of beauty, art. You have to put yourself in that positive state of mind to create. You are most godlike. And that's something that a lot of non-natives do not understand. It can take months up to years. That's the answer.
Yeah, and if I can remember that paper that you put out up there, it's well over 300 hours of work into a single rug that's only maybe 2.5 by 3 feet. And again, like Eileen said, there are a lot of rugs that are a lot bigger than that. And so you see the investment of time and work that goes into to these cultural practices, and you compare it to how fast it is to print off 100 shirts, right? On a screen printer, and a ginormous screen printer probably. And people are like, well, I can't pay $300-400 for a rug, but I can pay, $12 for a shirt, and I'll choose the shirt. And that's without understanding its meaning, without understanding uh, the the work that went into it. So the ease of buying something uh, that's not produced by native people is sometimes outweighs the quality of original things. So and the people that are mass producing these shirts, they're people with money. They're people that have a way to do that and just keep making it. I had friends in Gallup, New Mexico, that were making native shirts. They produce them. They design them. They'd screen print them, and then they would try to sell them. And the only way that it was profitable for them to sell, they had to sell these shirts for 20 to 25 bucks a piece, and they were T-shirts. Okay. And so what Walmart did, just down the road from where they were, is they started producing shirts that were kind of like theirs and selling them for $5 a shirt. And so people started buying the Walmart shirt, and he wasn't selling any, and it put him out of business. And as soon as he went out of business, the Walmart shirts went up to $14 a shirt. So you have these big companies that know how to manipulate this and do it. Okay. Let's go to slide 10, Renee. Appropriation spreads mass lies about marginal cultures, right? We look at these three pictures here. They're all representative of Pocahontas, John Rolfe, John Smith, and her life. We kind of romanticize what happened here, and the relationship that was given, even so far. And I'm not saying Disney's always pure, but even Disney gave us an inaccurate depiction of what actually happened between John Rolfe and John Smith and Pocahontas, and that relationship that occurred there. And I'll leave it at that for right now, just for sake of time. But let's go to the next slide, slide 11. It perpetuates racist stereotypes. All right, these are high school basketball team right in the middle. If you look at the girls basketball team right there, how they're dancing on their poster. If you look at Boy Scouts, if you look at the girls on the left, right, the Halloween costumes, right? Depending on how old the wearer of the Halloween costume will determine what this Halloween costume is called. The little girl will be Pocahontas, right? If that's the title of that Halloween costume. The older girl here, on the far left, her outfit is called Pocahontas, right? On that. And what does that do? What does this do? I mean, it seems innocent enough, probably, but the reality is, and I've shared this before, is that one in three Native American women will be sexually or violently assaulted in her lifetime. That's a lot, and you ask, what does this have to do with it? Well, these outfits, they sexualize Indian the the Indian look, right? The Indian women, and even sadly, if you look at the basketball team's poster right in the middle of the slide, and even on the bottom right hand corner of the high school girls, you sexualize this image of who Native American women are, and for a lot of people, you wear this costume on Halloween, and then on November 1st, you're back where you need to be, right? You're dressing the way you want to dress, and no one would connect you to that outfit anymore. But for young girls, for young Native girls, for young women, they that's not an outfit, right? You wore this outfit that sexualizes people's the thought of what Native women are. Now these Native women have to live with this every day after Halloween, right? And they can dress in jeans, they can dress in, I don't know, Las Vegas Raiders apparel, Dallas Cowboy apparel, whatever, but they're still visibly Indian. And because of how these Native women are portrayed in these outfits, these sexualized outfits, these Native girls every day after that are sexualized in that same way, and that leads to that how we treat um, how we treat Native women, right? I share this a lot here in these trainings that public perception creates public policy. How you see someone is how you treat that person. So if we see Native women as sexualized objects, you know, that's how you're going to treat them. And we need to stop that stereotype on how Native women are perceived in that way. Our the bottom right hand corner is actually Maple Mountain High School. This is back in 2015, and they inserted a hoop dance uh, number in for their dance team, and a lot of people jumped on that and said, "Hey, don't do that. this isn't this isn't there's meaning behind these things." And then on top of that, the way you're dressed is not very much different from the Pocahontas outfit on the left hand side. And so you're not only are you doing things that are culturally significant to the Native people, but you're perpetuating a sexualized image of Native women that can do harm. Okay. Let's go to the next slide, slide 12. All right. Appropriation allows privileged people or to freely do what people of color were actively punished for not doing. We look at this, right, and you're like, what does that mean? Well, up until 1978, it was actually illegal for Native people to fully practice their Native American religions, right? The American Indian Religious Freedom Act came out in 78, which allowed Native people to use certain objects to perform certain ceremonies. Um, what other religions have been um, legislatively outlawed in the U.S., right? And then all of a sudden, you know, your holistic practitioner, your non-Indian holistic practitioner is using these same things that are illegal for Native people to do to raise money for their spa. Or and this, if on the right hand side you see this lady, she's blessing her house with a bundle of sage. And I didn't know that was a thing for Native people, non-natives to do. I moved to Idaho, and one of my friends was living up there, and he was living in a more uh, affluent neighborhood than I was, and he came by and he was like, "We're just talking." He's non-Indian, but he was married to my friend who was Navajo, and we were just talking about things, and and the idea of blessing your home came up, and we talked about that and what we could do to do that. And then they brought up that one of their neighbors up in Idaho paid someone $10,000 to bless their house with sage. And first I was like, what? I would have done it for 5,000. I'm just kidding. No, I was like, what? This is wild. You know, that this is happening. And on one hand, you're balancing. Well, sage is from the earth. And there's a lot of cultures that use sage. There's healing properties of sage, and I get why they did it, but to go out and hire someone who may or may not be native, but for sure had a turkey feather on him. It was like they're profiting off this thing that where native people for so many years weren't even able to do um, religiously, ceremonially, and with good intention of doing. Right. So it's another effect of of appropriation. Let's jump to Chuck would have done it for 1,000. Awesome. What can I do? So we're spending a lot of time on what it is and why it's wrong. But let's look at what we can do to avoid being a part of that problem, right? How can we avoid these things from happening? Let's go to the next slide, slide 14. Something that we can do is we can support actual native artists and designers. I spelled designers wrong, didn't I? Did I? That does not look right. My I and
you
my
did.
G are flipped. Flip those. But go out and support native artists. And anymore, you can look online and you can find these artists actively using social media and selling their products. And and what's amazing about this is you can buy things from artists and say, hey, why did you make this? Why is it designed like this? And they'll tell you about that. They'll tell you why, and you get so much more out of it. Just like Eileen was saying about the rugs, there's so much more than it being a decorative piece. There's function behind this. There's spiritual function behind this. And thanks for that info, Brenda. And that you can, and you're benefiting, the artist is receiving the direct benefit of that purchase. And it's amazing. It's an amazing feeling. I mean, me growing up in a house of silversmiths, I remember every August, the second week in August, there's a Santa Fe Indian market, and all these native artists from across the United States come from all these different tribes, and you can see just, oh my goodness, you can just see just the variety of art styles and mediums that are out there. And I remember there was this guy that was selling a beaded cuff, and and I saw this cuff online, and I was like, oh my gosh, that cuff is so awesome. And I went to Santa Fe Indian Market. I saw it there, and Bethany Yellowtail had a booth there, and you're only supposed to sell the stuff you made at Art Market, but she had like 6 of those cuffs because he had asked her to sell them for him. And I said, hey, is that cuff made by that artist Not Afraid? And she was like, yeah, you want one? And I'm like, yeah. So I bought this cuff, and I was so happy I got it. And I wore it home. I worked at UVU on my first day of teaching there that semester, and I was so proud of this cuff. And I took a picture of it, put it on Instagram, and the artist saw my photo of me wearing his cuff, and he was like, and he direct messaged me in a private message saying, hey, thank you for buying that cuff. This is why I made that cuff. This cuff was designed after my grandmother. And he was like, I used these colors because these were her colors. I used this design because this is the design she taught me. And then he went on to say, I used a pretty bad gold bead there. So if that bead fades, send this back to me and I'll fix it for you. And I was like, hey, this is awesome. This guy is, sharing all these things with me, making it so much more meaningful. And on top of that, I'm supporting native artists, right? Let's go to the next one. 15, I believe. Learn more about native-led movements, right? to participate in these things. There are so many, even just in Utah, there's so many groups that do things to help the Native community. There's the Urban Indian Center of Salt Lake. There's the Salt Lake City Air Protectors. There's individuals that do things, right? There's like Eileen Quintana. She goes out and makes herself active in the community to make sure people understand Native issues and the things that are important and concerning here and how we can better do this. This program itself, Title VI, I can't tell you how much it does for urban Indian youth here. You know, I'm not going to speak for reservation youth, but urban Indian youth, oh my goodness, the you're offering something that a lot of these kids aren't being exposed to anymore. You know, and I'm not putting blame on any parents right here. I'm just saying that, you know, parents work hard, and not everybody makes that time to teach their kids their culture or traditions. And so programs that help Native youth in school and succeed in things are so important. And on top of that, sharing the importance of your culture and how your culture is relevant to you today is amazing, you know, and so I appreciate that so much. Yeah, please keep listing organizations in the chat for everyone here, so you can, if you need something, you know, contact these organizations. They're there to help. They want to help and make things work. Let's go to the next one. Call out appropriation because it's offensive, right? Just like Meredith said at the beginning, right? Look at these signs. Kansas City Chiefs will scalp the Res kids, feed them whiskey, and send them to reservation, right? You see something like that, we need to say something, right? You look here and you see the Black Sambo versus the Kansas City Chief Wahoo. There's not much difference there, you know, but one is for sure, as it says on the bottom of his podium, not cool, you know, right? But one is okay. You know, why is that? Why do we say Native American appropriation and is okay? You know, designers, guys, if you go to Coachella for the music festival, you're not helping also if you're wearing the headdress. I don't care if you are Native, please don't do that. Not to that event, right? Call those things out. But you know, it's going to take some work. We're going to have to educate ourselves a little more. This is an overview. This is broad strokes. A lot of this presentation. So I hope that it inspires you to do more and to learn a little bit more, so you can answer the questions that are going to come up later. Let's go to the next slide. Support non-native companies or organizations that actively honor Native culture and creations, right? You're going to be able to find those, and you're going to see what companies Native people support, why they support them, and you can help by supporting those organizations that promote Native organizations and culture and creation. In the end, you can go ahead and go to the last slide. I would just ask you to be a good human being, you know. And sometimes being a good human being isn't always rewarded, right? And maybe that's something that's true, and that's okay. You know, if I'm treating somebody less human, and then one day I start treating them more human, I probably don't need a handshake or a celebratory dinner or a thank you. You know, I shouldn't be rewarded for finally seeing someone as human and showing them humanity, right? You know, each of us, no matter what culture we're part of, and no matter what cultural lineage we come from, we're still human beings, and we deserve that respect, and we deserve not to be treated less than. And so on our own parts, as each of us as individuals, we need to sometimes call ourselves out and say, I'm getting after people for treating Indians this way, but maybe there's things that I do that aren't right, and that I need to make sure I'm treating people as people, humans as humans, right, and give them that love and respect that they also need. Um, that's the end of my PowerPoint. But are there any questions from anyone? Too
This is
late. Just
Brenda,
kidding.
and we just wanted to say this is very important information, and I think sometimes to have that voice and to let people know that, hey, that's not cool, and this is the reason why. So, and I know in social media, there's a lot of different stories that come up about teachers doing inappropriate things for activities in the classroom. And so we just need to be more mindful about what's happening in our schools and how our students are, what they're being exposed to in terms of inequities, and then also cultural inappropriation type of things that they're experiencing. So I really do appreciate your presentation.
Thank you so much.
Dustin, this is Sarai Newmarker. I do these cultural appropriation trainings for my faculty in Davis because we have lots of issues. But I like to tie it to their own sacred things that they hold sacred. And I say, look, think of the things that you hold sacred, and do you want them displayed in an appropriate way? So it's the same way for our Native American people. We're using their sacred religious items and beliefs and using them in an inappropriate way. So that I think that in that way it touches home to at least these teachers that I'm trying to teach these appropriation issues that we have. I think it makes it a little more personal to them, but in that respect.
Yes, thank you. I think the more we do it, the more repetitive we get, the more this conversation happens, the easier it is to understand, the easier it is to accept, and then the easier it is to implement good practices. All right. Hey, Dr. Foster, thank you very much for this time. Thanks for allowing me to be a part of this. And normally I provide a letter that
Wait, I
we
have a
send out.
question. Can they hear me?
I can hear you now.
Oh, I have a question. Can you hear me?
Yes.
So my question was earlier, like at the beginning of your presentation, with what Eileen was saying, with the songs that are shared, where those come from the tribes themselves, and they're very specific in the terminology. If there are songs that are shared that are not done in that way, like it's just white people repeating songs, like it's not indigenous led or anything, is there consensus on, like, is that practice, is there consensus that that's like a form of violence, or is it just seen as like that's inappropriate, don't do that?
Do you have an example?
So in Moab, we're having conversations about the song "Go My Son," and I think there was like an email thread about that, and I had some other conversations outside of that in town, where some Dene people were like, well, there's no context being given around that song, and it's not coming from like the local tribal people. It's just something that like white people are repeating.
Okay, I'm gonna, Go My Son was written by two Native people, Carnes Burson and Arlene Nashisi Williams. Arlene Williams still lives here in Provo. I, you know, I don't know who owns the rights to that song. I can't say it's a cultural song. Maybe it's transcended that line to be a cultural song.
Okay.
But I it was written at BYU while she was a student there, and so for me, my bigger question would be is, do you have the copyright to do this and share this song? And then if you have questions on it, I think it's something that you can ask Arlene about, Ms. Williams about, to say, is this appropriate? Is it okay if we share your song in this way? But also, I agree that there should be some context behind it, why the lyrics are what they are, right? Where she got how she was inspired uh, to even use those lyrics that she uses. I think having that context and taking a moment to teach that would be important. But I that's not a ceremonial song. That's not a song that's sung um, but it is a song that was directed towards Native people. Um, that was written by two Native people. Uh, so those are my comments on that. But I'll turn. I appreciate Eileen and Dr. Foster's comments on that too in that email thread.
Oh, but maybe my overall question would be like, is there a consensus on like a threshold for like what is violent type speech and what's not in Utah? I don't know. I'm not from here, so that's why I was asking, kind of along those lines too.
Do you know any type of legislation that's out there, Dr. Foster, that maybe defines what violent speech is? I mean, I guess you could look at hate speech and things like that and find laws that have maybe been decided in Utah that define what speech is harmful to others. But I myself, I'm not aware of anything legislatively that defines hate speech and that can cause harm. I think but overall, my general rule is, if someone says I'm hurting them, I have the option to stop or not.
Right.
If I'm, if my one of my kids is messing with my other kid and there's a stop, you're hurting me, and my kid keeps going, he's choosing to continue to hurt. He's been made aware. And if a community comes up and says, hey, this action's hurting me, and you keep doing it and don't inquire to find out how that hurt's happening, I think those are active decisions and inquiries that can be made.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks, Dustin. That was very informative. One of the things I think that three things kind of jump out at me in terms of all this information given to us. You referred to the Title VI program and its impact on the K-12 students, the parents, the community, and some of the schools and school districts and teachers and, people that they associate themselves with. The three things is that, they're representative as role models, because oftentimes that we do see ourselves where we become role models for a lot of the Title VI programs. The display of what we do and how we do it, and the rationale as to what we explain. Another area I think is important is that we are advocates for our students, because someone needs to go to bat for these students, and oftentimes the students don't have they don't have a bat to go to go to the plate with. In the Title VI coordinators, you do. And the last is the example that you show with the program. I know that a lot of you, and as well as I do, we go out and we do our presentations, and the presentations that we do is information that is more educational than anything else, because what we're trying to do here is that we're trying to educate the community I know. Let me give you an example. Just a few, couple of weeks, 3 weeks ago, I had an opportunity to go up to the Weber School District, and there, the Weber School District was a place where often times they ask. The comment was that we didn't know that the American Indians still live. Yes, yeah, we're still around. um, and some of the stereotypes, do we still live in the teepees or hogans? I said, well, not really, but you find some of the traditional people that they still do. Plus, a lot of the ceremonies that they do, they are done in teepees and in hogans, and with the back people back east, they do it in the longhouse. So those are just kind of things that I think uh, we as the Title VI folks and coordinators, the education that we have, that we spread that information to everybody. So that's just kind of my observation this morning, because this information that you gave us, it's for me, it's here to stay. It, one way we can uh, go around that is we educate we educate everybody on these topics. So I'd like to thank you, Dustin, for that information.
Thank you. I appreciate that opportunity. Please email me. I'll put my email in the chat if you have any questions or any that you'd like me to try and address, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, I think one of the comments I got here was that they'd like to know if they could use your PowerPoint for their school district.
Let me go over that PowerPoint real quick to make sure I didn't have anything bad in the notes parts of it. let me screen my own PowerPoint real quick, and I'll smoke on it a
Okay.
little bit. And
All right.
but
Well, you can send it to myself or
yeah,
Renee, and we'll get it out to everybody.
yeah, and I normally provide a letter to teachers in schools
Yeah.
about Halloween and Halloween outfits, or Thanksgiving and Thanksgiving themed assemblies, and I cannot find it on my computer. I had to send my computer to IT, and I guess that's one of the things I lost. But Chuck, if you have a copy of that letter, you're more than. I think I sent it. I may have sent it through you before, but I'm not
Yeah, you
sure.
have. I'll
Uh,
look for it, and then
yeah,
once I get that, I'm gonna send it back to you and send it out to all the coordinators so they can
sounds
review that.
perfect.
Yeah.
Well, thank you all so much. You guys have a good one. I do have one more meeting to prepare for, but I appreciate this, and please email me when you can. Have a
Okay.
good one.
Hey, thank you. Okay, let's go to the next presenter, Lisa Coney.
Hi, can you hear me?
Okay. And just a introduction here. You're from UEN, and I guess basically you can introduce yourself and what the program that you're going to bring to us this morning.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much, Chuck, and thank you, Dustin. And I tried to share my screen. Can you all see the screen?
Yes.
Yay. So thank you. I am the Utah Education Network's Community Partnership Manager. And over the years, I have worked with Chuck and Eileen and many of the leaders throughout Title VI and the Native community. And last March, first of all, I'm just so touched by Dustin's presentation. And I want to offer this website that I'm going to share with you, our relaunch of UEN's American Indian Resources. I'm going to throw it out there and invite Dustin to actually make a video with his PowerPoint to put on this website, because everything he just talked about is so important, and the education that we are trying to bring to every Utah teacher in the state is just, I just think it's so powerful. So I'm going to get in touch with Dustin, and hopefully you'll be able to see and share this PowerPoint from this website. 6 months ago, I think in March, my math is bad, however long ago that was, the BYU Arts Partnership had a question for us. They knew that UEN is where teachers go to get information, and they had just developed some curriculum, and they wanted it on the UEN website. And as they were reviewing the American Indian Resources on UEN's website, it was very apparent that it was just a mishmash. It was like, oh, here's a American Indian resource. Let's throw it on here. Is it a lesson plan? What is it? And we just, things were out of date. And we really were moved and inspired to meet with several partners. And as I show you this website, I'm going to start at the bottom. And together, the BYU Arts Partnership, myself at UEN, our web designer, and the Utah Division of State History, and Robert Austin at the State Board of Education, we all started meeting and talking about how can we make this better. And we did a couple of things as a working group. We collaborated and asked for feedback before we started doing anything from teachers as well as stakeholders. And many of the stakeholders are here in this meeting, as well as there were teachers. So Chuck and and Dustin all participated in helping us really define what we wanted to do and the important pieces of educating Utah's teachers and students and having them have a place that has accurate and appropriate information. So as I go through this, I want to remind you that we decided that less is more. And we were going to be very mindful and very purposeful with everything that we put on this website. So one of the first things that we did with BYU has money and doesn't have to jump through all those political hoops that those of us who work for higher ed or the government, they were very kind in offering not a raffle, because you're not supposed to use that word, but they offer headphones for earbuds, actually, for teachers to take a survey about where do they find content when they're going to teach about American Indian history or present information. So when they're talking about American Indian content, where do they go? And this, I know that, and it was in May, and that is a time when teachers are stressed and tired, and people really don't want to participate in stuff. But we had over 300 teachers fill out this survey, and the information we got back from that survey was really interesting and really powerful. So one of the questions that we asked was, where do they go? And unfortunately, the number one place was teachers paid teachers. And since I'm not in the classroom anymore, I hadn't even heard of that site. And the sad thing about that site is that anybody can post, anybody can say this is valid, and anybody can choose the material, whether it's accurate or not. And the second place was Pinterest. And the third place that they said that they went was to go to UEN for information on teaching Native American topics. So another question that why that information was so interesting was that they also said that these 300 teachers, and they were all kinds of teachers, they weren't just social studies teachers, but we did push this out through UEN channels. The other thing they said was that they really wanted to make sure that the information that they were, oh, go ahead. Oh, that the information that they were sharing was authentic and that it was valid. And so we took that information, and as I show you the information on this website, we were really lucky that the Utah Division of State History and USBE helped pay for us to have, I don't want to say an intern, but Jordan Allison really helped us be that bridge to reach out to stakeholders, to reach out to tribes, gather information, and helped us oversee all of this information that I'm going to show you. So first of all, you'll see that I'm going to show you the website going down from the bottom to the top. So these are our partners. And then we really wanted to make sure that accurate and tribal nations were represented, the 8 tribal nations of Utah. So we have this interactive map. I'm just going to click on Skull Valley. And it takes you to our information sheet about the Skull Valley along with the Go Shoot. And I'll talk a little bit more about these resources in a second, but each one of these tribal nations are represented on this interactive map. And if you click on them, you'll go and find information about the tribe. And so with that, and then on the right here, every 2 weeks, and that's why you see Indigenous Peoples Days still on here, are highlights of where we want to make sure that we highlight the programming that we do have on UEN TV and programming that we have on FNX and professional development and current community events. So probably on Monday afternoon, I think that's going to be the next 2 weeks, this will be updated. And that takes me to the very top here, where just this introduction about the website, we put a lot of thought into stating this sentence. And actually, I'm going to read it just for the power of it. Here, you'll find current culturally appropriate resources for teaching and learning about Utah's Indigenous communities, heroes, and events, present and past. And one of the things that Chuck just said, and part of the Dustin brought up, that one of my colleagues said that should read past and present. And I said, actually, it should stay the same, because the point is we want people to recognize, and that's one of the things that we heard from our stakeholders. And Chuck was just saying about up in Weber County, present, and then we can talk about the past. So I am hoping that you all are connected to some really great resources and lesson plans, and you will check back regularly for updates on this page. But please submit suggestions and comments here. It's really important to us that this group, the working group here that we have, and if you'd like to be a part of the working group, please submit that and let us know. But it's really important to us that we stay updated. And so we are meeting quarterly. We have tasks every quarter to go over information so that we're not flooding people with resources that are all over the place. We want teachers to be able to come directly, find what they want, and share the information. And so I think, Dustin, if you're still on the call, I think part of that information that Dustin shared should absolutely be on here. I wanted to show you, first at the top too, every time you refresh this page, this image changes. We wanted to have images from all 8 tribal nations, but we were really struggling to get images that were high enough quality. So that is our next task, and I am meeting with the tribal nations. I've asked Dustin to be on the December agenda so that we can get input from the education directors of each tribe and get some authentic, high quality images that represent each one of the 8 tribal nations here. So just like in the map, we still have the map here. This map isn't interactive, but if you go to the, just pick a tribe, here, the San Juan Southern Paiute tribe. We actually, on each page we have, we shall remain resources. We go to the tribal website if they have that available, and really accurate lesson plans. So as you can see, we are missing lesson plans for the San Juan Southern Paiute tribe. But if you have some specific, please share them with us. And we have a few things up our sleeve that I'll share with you in a minute. But Navajo is a really good example of, we shall remain lesson plans. We go to the website, and then we really want to make sure that we're including an enterprise if that is available. And because Navajo Nation has a plethora of enterprises, we thought that we would share the Navajo Times for people to get accurate, up-to-date, current, valid information. So I'm going to go back to the home page, and you'll see that the lead image has changed. And that really covers the Utah tribal nations. Please go find information. And we worked really hard to make sure that that was accurate and appropriate. Next, we go to Educator Resources. And I am hopeful that the video is going to work here. But I want to read this because it's really important, and I'm just going to show you 1 minute of this really important video that we hope that teachers will watch and really take in. And I think this is a good place for Dustin's cultural appropriation information. So this is very dynamic, but let me just go here, that we hope that every teacher who comes here will at least watch the first minute of this video. Hopefully you can all see and hear.
Even though it's the 21st century, we're still struggling with people to understand that Indigenous people are still here. And that when we're wearing contemporary clothes of the 21st century, that doesn't take away our indigeneity. You're not dressed like your ancestors from 400 years ago. You're not talking like them from 400 years ago. You're not even living the life ways that they did. But somehow, as Indigenous people, if we're not living like our ancestors did in 1400, there's this notion that we're no longer Indigenous. Part of that is the way the history's taught. It's almost always taught in the past tense. If they even mention Narragansett at all, it's during King Philip's War, it's over, they're enslaved, they're massacred, they're gone. But in reality, we did exist. And it took 100 years to prove that legally and to get federal recognition and acknowledgement of that.
So that is right here on the front page of our educator resource page. And hope the rest of that video talks a lot about Narragansett, but I just felt it was really important for teachers to have that information before moving ahead. And then we've divided this page into learning resources to include the We Shall Remain, PBS Learning Media, where I got that video. They have done such a good job. And then you can read for yourselves, but everything from the Smithsonian, and then UEN's carry through of FNX. While FNX may be not the most educational, but I love to see that there are Native productions by Native people, and children can see themselves on television. And I'll tell you a quick story in a little bit about FNX from a woman, Navajo woman from New Mexico. But just the power of having that station available across the country is makes me really proud that UEN carries it for the state of Utah. So we have lesson plans here for teachers. And again, we've tried to be very focused, very accurate, and very mindful that less is more. And so we are being very deliberate in what we put here. There's not a plethora here. We want teachers to go and make sure that what they are presenting is the highest quality. We have professional development opportunities for teachers. I feel like this would be another great place for Dustin's PowerPoint, and I really want UEN to make a video of him kind of giving a 15-minute summary and lecture on what he presented today. I thought it was really powerful. And then general information for teachers. We have the Title VI program, and Illuminative has lots of great resources, and the other Smithsonian, and KUED did a really great film called Unspoken about the boarding schools that I think is really powerful and important for teachers to know about. So then if we go back home, and please interrupt me, and please, hopefully you're all exploring on your own computers, not just looking at my presentation today, but we have Utah Tribal Nations, Educator Resources, and then we thought it was important to have student and family resources for students who want more information. Again, the We Shall Remain information, PBS Learning Media, Native Knowledge 360 from the Smithsonian, and then educational opportunities that USBE, Chuck has up on his website for scholarships, as well as Nebo, that's you, Eileen, I think. I get Alpine and Nebo mixed up, but this was such a great resource that we wanted to make sure that we added it as a link for students and families to find out the information, and then parents to make sure that they can reach out to you all, our messengers, and find out that Title VI information just goes right to that page. So one of the things that the website is uen.org/American Indian. And let's see our third image. And it usually only keeps about 3 images, and then it repeats. But I wanted to share, I don't know if how I can share one more screen. So I'm going to, I sent this to Jessica, and it was so nice to meet you this morning. Let's see, I'm gonna stop sharing, and then I'm gonna reshare. this. So hopefully you can all see, we created this flyer for you to share with your communities, your students, the faculty, the teachers. I sent the JPEG to Jessica and Chuck to send to all of you. Please feel free to print. We are printing a ton that I'll get out to you as well, but it does really nicely on the color printer, just on regular paper. And I am happy to take questions and suggestions on how we can get the information out. To more people. Any questions? Eileen, your hand is still up, but
This is Sarai Newmarker from Davis. I always tell my teachers to go to UEN. So I think of having a poster, and I'm glad that you guys updated everything. It looks awesome. But yeah, having a poster that I can hand out or whatever, a flyer, is a great idea. So I'm grateful for that idea. Just wanted to say that.
thank you so much, Soraya, because so one of the things that I'm going to do a year from now, it was such a great experience working with the Native American community and leaders and stakeholders. We are now doing this with the Asian American and Pacific Islander and Latinx communities to really have pages on UEN that are focused, appropriate, and honor cultural representation in an appropriate way. So in a year from now, I'm really glad that you said that, because I'm going to put together one poster that represents all of those, all of our new websites that we'll be launching throughout 2021-2022 school year. So thank you. Anything else?
I had something, if that's okay. This is Matthew Emerson from Canyons. So I was thinking, I can't wait to get this flyer. I would love to send this out to our schools, along with a gift that of texts that we're providing, that we always do during Native American Heritage Month. But I'm wondering, do we have a one flyer on cultural appropriation that we could send out along with this that might be helpful during Native American Heritage Month, when the likelihood is higher that we may see some inappropriate depictions in classes?
I have written that down. UEN doesn't have anything right now. Maybe Chuck or Dustin, but I am really focused on making sure that we get something in there. One of the things that's coming up that we're working on, we're going to meet again and refresh the page. We're going to be doing land acknowledgement and making sure that that is available for teachers' information. And and sorry, I can't read and talk at the same time. Thank you, Eileen. I'm happy to come and present anytime. But yeah, I was just really moved by Dustin's presentation, and that was a big reason for this update. But I really want to take you all up on that. I'm happy to, so you'll get a digital copy. Hopefully Jessica and or Chuck will get that out to you, so you can share that with your teachers. But and I will get, as soon as we get these printed. We were hoping for a November 1st launch, but we have a few things up our sleeve, like this really amazing video that we are making that talks about the a way to remember the 8 tribal nations, so that the kids aren't singing that same fourth grade song that my children sang that only identifies the four. We're giving another resource to teachers, but that probably won't be done till the middle of November. But anyway, yes, I'm happy to come for any professional development and share this resource and the importance of this resource.
Hey, Lisa, this is Chuck. All the Title VI coordinators, they do have a website. And is it permissible for the UEN be linked to their website? So if teachers are looking for
Absolutely.
resources and they may hit UEN and at their website and it goes directly to what you're displaying here.
Yes, yes. If you all need help with a widget, I sort of know what that means, but I think we can I can connect you. I'll put my email in the chat, but definitely email me, and I can have our phenomenal web designer. She was really amazing. We've spent many hours making this website fresh and deliberate. So any feedback, actually, if there's any negative feedback too, please share it with me. We want to make sure that things are well represented. And thank you, Chuck, for having me today.
Oh, you bet. I think this is very, very informative. Again, I go back to the little comment that I made before, was that the educational arm is a powerful tool. And I think this is one way that we start chipping away at the big boulder, is that the more education and the more the facts, the real facts, getting it out there. And plus that, you have Robert Austin from the Social Studies Department, who's on board on this. So I think you're making a good effort in terms of getting that information out to all the teachers and the schools. And I like to thank you for that.
It's really an honor to this. It was a really enjoyable experience, and like I said, I think that experience to move into other cultural domains.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah.
So,
well, the last comment I like to make is that you have the buy-in from the tribes. I think sitting around the table and getting their input and getting their feeling and getting their thought process going. That this is a area of consultation that you've had with the tribes, and I think that's a very, very important step. So
I just want to add one thing. One of the things that we are doing that was a lot of
I think someone's
I'm adding music to my we have purposefully not posted those lesson plans because we want to have them reviewed by each one of the tribes and make sure that the language is updated. Those were done probably in the early 2000s and the late 90s, and the language has changed. So again, that's our big push, is to make sure that they're accurate, and everything we're doing is to make it culturally appropriate and sensitive. So thank you. Oh, one more thing. Sorry. I promise this is the last thing. UEN has, please come back and visit this site so that you can find out more about our American Indian Film Festival. We have 4 films. We have 3 films. Well, actually 4 different films and events throughout November. Really quickly, November 9th, Moroni Benali will be joining us at UVU, and he's going to be speaking after the screening of the film Moroni for President. On the 11th, as part of Weber State's Native Symposium, Chasing Voices, film will be shared, and that's going to be a hybrid event, so everybody can join. And November 15th, again at UVU for the Rock Your Mocks Day, we're going to be partnering with the Polynesian, the Pacific Islander community and screening several episodes of Skindigenous that I'm going to put a shameless plug in, is on every Saturday night at 7 p.m. on UEN TV, Channel 9, throughout the rest of the year. And then on November 18th at the University of Utah, we'll be screening the film Tribal Justice and have a panel after that. Okay, I've taken up way too much time. Thank you all so much. Please visit our website often and give us feedback.
Okay. Hey, thank you, Lisa. Let's go to the last 2 pieces here. The Title VI updates. I'd like to have Stephanie and Charlene, could you give us an update on the Go Shoot language development and the process of where it's at right now? Is Stephanie or Charlene there? Okay, I guess they're.
Stephanie, I don't think Stephanie had to step out, but this is Natalie.
Okay.
I'm a Native American Education Liaison for Tooele County School District.
Okay.
And I, from what I know, they're still trying to find someone to get a teacher, someone to teach the language class. And so I think that's where they're at right now, trying to find someone to teach.
Okay. Okay, and again, it's a long process in terms of offering that course, and I think there's interest there, but you know, getting the tribal speakers there to help out. Now, are there any other updates that the Title VI folks would like to say or express? And if not, let's go on. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, this is Brenda, and I just wanted to let everybody know that we do have our flyer posted for our Heritage Language Conference, and then I will be sending a registration link to Dr. Foster so he can send it out to everybody. But it will be a virtual conference, so, and we have some great guest speakers on there, so we'll go ahead and send that out Monday.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Eileen?
Yes, Dr. Foster, I want to see if I can get flyers sent to you that you could share with the Title VI coordinators to share within their regions, especially with those that live around Salt Lake City, the Wasatch Front area. As a practice, I usually partner with organizations that are around this area. One of them is Adopt a Native Elder. They have that same organization, that same event that Dustin alluded to, which is Shieja Ambassador. It's a great way of building leadership skills, being able to teach young ones how to speak in front of an audience, and at the same time represent Adopt a Native elders in their work. And they get a chance 1 year of responsibilities and working with elders that are so amazingly knowledgeable, and they get a chance to see the organization from the inside out. And I'd like to see if maybe I can put a plug in for that Shieja ambassador. We're going to do the pageant on November 6th, Saturday. And we need Diné girls between the ages of 8 and 12 to compete in that. And I just wanted to share that with all of you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, is there anybody else that would? Okay, let's go on to the NIE updates. I know that a few of you attended that, and if there are any updates on the Office of Indian Education, the sessions that they had there, if you attended that, is there anything that we all need to know? Okay, I guess not. So I'll give it a little bit of your time back, and I like to adjourn. In our next meeting, again, thank you for your attendance. Our next meeting is November the 19th, and that's going to be virtual again. We'll again have the
Dr.
professional
Foster, sorry to
development
interrupt.
arm. Okay, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, I was wondering. I raised my hand, but I don't think it's registering on there for some reason. So I had a couple things. One, I did have an NIEA update I would love to share. We ran into a wonderful session called the 7 Essential Understandings of Native Americans. And I think it was specifically for Montana, but it had been used a lot more broadly than that, because we heard the 7 Essential Understandings in other sessions that we were in. And these are things that I think most of the coordinators are already familiar with, you know, things like tribal sovereignty and things like the fact that there are differences between the tribes and you know, depictions, you know, the way things are depicted need to be represented. We Are Still Here was another of the essential understandings. So there are things that everybody is already familiar with here, but they were presented in a really concise and organized way. And we've actually sent out a message and asked if we could have some of these presenters from NIEA come out and do some professional development with our school districts in the way that they presented it so well. So we'll let everybody know when Canyons is planning on doing that, if we're able to make it happen. I hope so, because we were hoping to use some of our STAD money for that. And then that was just the NIEA thing, but you asked if there were any program updates. And I was wondering, you know, we have that section of the grant that we're supposed to provide state data for, but I find it highly ironic that we don't have any state data for the year. Like, we don't have any testing data because the tests were canceled for the year they're asking us to report on. So I don't see how any of the coordinators are going to be able to say on state tests that, yes, the program objectives were achieved. And I was wondering if the other coordinators have filled out APR Section 3 yet, if they are planning on reporting the same thing, that we will not, you know, where we were unable to achieve, you know, that particular objective. I was just wondering what everybody else is planning on doing in that part of the grant.
Now, is this grant, is that the formula grant application?
Yeah, it's the APR Section 3 that is due at the end of next week.
Okay. Matthew, I don't have privy to that, but I think the other Title VI folks do.
Well, anybody else want to jump in here and comment on what they're planning on doing on that section where we have no testing data to say that we had achieved the grant objective?
I think that's kind of what we just need to say, is put it in our narrative. And I mean, especially for San Juan School District, there's like only half of our district took the state assessments, and The other half didn't because of the restrictions for social distancing, meeting the CDC guidelines. So I don't know, maybe we can just do a narrative. It would be great to get more information on how to respond to that.
Thank you, Brenda. I think the narrative needs to, or I'm sorry, I didn't see who spoke. I thought that was Brenda, but I do think that we need to be united maybe somewhat in our narrative and let them know that, they're asking us for information that we can't give them.
This is Stephanie Rowley, and are you talking about the EASY grant, the APR that's being requested at this point?
Yes.
Okay, because I just finished up ours, and this is the first time I've ever had to fill out that grant information for the year that I just started this position. I'm the federal programs director here in Tooele County School District, and I noticed in part of the verbiage, it's under Survey 2. And it said, as I read through the information, it said that for this year, for that 2019-2020 information that they are requesting, this is the first year that it is now optional. And so because I didn't have that information for them as well. And so on both sections near the end, it says that the data pieces are optional. So if you take a look, on the two sections that's requesting academic information. And then further down, there was a narrative box that I was able to add in the information that I knew of based on what we had collected, and then add in the information like that you had just talked about, and then submitted it that way. I just didn't know if you knew about that or had seen that as well.
I hadn't gotten to that part of it yet. I just watched the webinar.
Okay, when you get there, take a look at it. I don't know if anyone else noticed it, but it said optional, but this is the first year that this has ever happened. And I'm guessing it's because of COVID, but they didn't say specifically in the APR itself.
Okay, thank you, Matthew and Stephanie.
Hey, Dr. Foster, am I able to share some upcoming programs and events with the Urban Indian Center?
Oh, you bet.
Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm the Sacred Past Family Program Coordinator here at the Urban Indian Center of Salt Lake. And next week, we are having an event, Boo to the Flu. It'll be here at the center from 3 p.m. to 6 o'clock p.m. We're going to have flu shots available for ages 4+. We ask that participants wear their costumes, so families and children are welcome to wear their costumes. There'll be a trunk or treat, and masks are required for the event. So that's next Friday. And then I'm currently recruiting families and youth participants for our K through 12 virtual culture classes, and I'll send Dr. Foster the flyers for that. Thank you.
Hey, thanks. Good information. Is there anybody else? And I'd like to thank you guys for your time and your input and your thought process. I think it was a very good program as far as information. All the information was here. I got a lot out of it. Our next meeting is November the 19th. Again, we'll do that virtually. And the information that is going to be sent to me, I'll send it out. And, Renee will also probably send that information out. So you might have a double hit there. And again, thank you for your time. And Renee, could you set up a Microsoft meeting with Marilee today at 1 o'clock? Other than that, hey, thank you for your attendance.
Okay.
Thanks, Dr. Foster.
Thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Foster.
Hey, Dr. Foster. Chuck.